Welcome, everybody, to today's live stream. Joining me today is George Kenner and Hope Yoder. So I hope you found us today and hope that you enjoy this interview with Hope. So let's dive right into it. Hope, tell us something about yourself.
Well, I have the best name in the world. Who doesn't need more hope in their life, right?
That's right.
I weigh 20 pounds and I'm 30 years old. Those are the important things to remember. No, I've been in the crafting industry for the past 3 decades. And so I've had the privilege of working with the manufacturing companies like Brother and Baby Lock and Bernina and the sewing industry. The coolest thing I think I ever did, two things. I helped introduce the scan and cut digital cutter to the market. I had one of the original prototypes. That was super cool. I'm kind of a nerd at heart. I love to find the settings and the operation behind the scenes. And then the second coolest thing I think I've done is I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at our Sewing and Vacuum Trade Association this year. So that was pretty cool. Today, I run a full-time laser engraving studio in Sarasota, Florida. I have 2 employees. And I also run online and hands-on laser courses for people who want to do what I do.
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about the lasers. That sounds really interesting.
So right now I started with a Glowforge laser and I wanted to make cool Apple Watch bands and engrave those. And that was a great stepping stone for what I do now, which is stay at home instead of traveling half the month. And I own 3 Aeon CO2 lasers, small, medium, and a large one. And then I also have a fiber laser and looking to add some more, but don't tell my husband.
Well, that's really neat. I'm impressed. I mean, obviously you've been a big success in all this, so I applaud you. Anybody that works hard and is successful in any kind of business should be applauded. And to have multiple employees and especially lasers, because George and I we know what those cost and they're not cheap. So you've done really quite well. As I said, I applaud you.
Oh,
You
well,
know,
thank
Bruce, what I think we ought to establish here is for the viewers is for them to know that you and I are hobbyists. We have no
Yes.
desire to produce or teach.
Yes.
Other than our YouTube channels and that type of thing, we'll share with other hobbyists, but we're not professionals. Hope is the consummate professional. She's
That's
somebody
right.
that is
That is
both
right.
teaching and running a successful business. And when I first met Hope, one of the things she told me that just made me smile was, if it don't move, engrave it.
If it's not nailed down, I'll engrave it or my husband will grill it.
So, she has the same can do, want to learn attitude that we do, sharing, just I'll call it a hobbyist passion. She has a professional passion, but in a way, she approaches it as a hobbyist. She fully understands the person that's just getting involved. At one point in time, and maybe you can touch on this, Hope, is you've even run cruises for people that were in the hobby trying to transition over. You've taken them out, on a cruise ship and even had events like that for them.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, a lot of laser owners want to just meet up with other people that have the same passion that they do. And honestly, it's a great way for my husband and I to get a little price break on going on a cruise while we do some fun things together. So the first one that we did was more of a meetup, and my goal was to have 20, and we had 24 on there. So that was really encouraging. And we had designated times where we met up and we did some teaching with light burn and networking and just more lecture. There were no lasers on the cruise. It was just people that own lasers on the cruise and myself kind of being at the helm. And my husband got to connect with a lot of the spouses, and it was like a family reunion, but with people you actually like. It's a great concept. And then this next year in February, I'd like to invite everybody watching. You can go to my website, which is just my name, hopeyoder.com. We have my first mastermind on a cruise. And so this is going to be, it has 2 fees for that. Obviously, one for the mastermind and then your lodging, which happens to be on a 7-day cruise. And so we're hoping to have a small group again. and it is going to be deep dive into how to find business, pricing, marketing, networking, and Lightburn software. So everything that I do on a daily basis that I've learned for the past 30 years is going to be in this mastermind. And it'll be 3 days of teaching that are really condensed. And then the other 4 days are at on port. So I think the mastermind starts at 8 to 1 each day. So it's going to be all condensed in there. And then after lunch, you have time to meet up with whoever else is on the cruise that may not be in the mastermind. So I'm excited about that. George, you and Lily definitely need to come. And Bruce, you should come too. It'd be really awesome.
So I've got to ask the all-important question here, and it has nothing to do with lasers. What cruise line? Because I love cruising. Unfortunately, not so big on cruise lines.
So this one is Royal Caribbean.
Oh, it's one of the best. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you had me worried for a minute there.
Yeah, so, no. I've done several cruises. I actually have never done a Royal Caribbean, but it's obviously, as everyone knows, one of the best ones out there. So,
right. Well, it's really hard to get meeting room space, and with, having something with a projector and the setup that we need, like a classroom. That's really not the easiest thing in the world to do, believe it or not. In fact, we had a cruise, I think we're going on February 2nd, and we had it scheduled for a couple weeks later, and we had guaranteed with Royal Caribbean, and somehow we got booted out of that because a bigger group came in and they, changed the contract. So you have to be really careful. We have a cruise director, our cruise planner that we work with, that's actually someone I network with, and she's amazing. So Royal Caribbean, the reason why we went with that was for that reason alone. So it is a very nice cruise line. We had really a great experience. The beds were all brand new on the last cruise, which was also Royal Caribbean. It was a great time.
Mm-hmm. Well, for anybody that hasn't done any cruising, I love it. The only complaint I would have about yours is it's too short. I like doing those 30-day cruises. The longest I ever did was a 36 throughout Asia and went through India. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. If you've never given cruising a try it tomorrow. And, this is a perfect opportunity where you can, maybe learn something. And I'm guessing, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Hope, but if they go on that cruise and there's a business purpose associated with it, could they write that off?
100%. And that's why we do it. God bless America, right? I
That's right.
But 100%. And one of the questions I get asked is to me, and of course I'm the host of the cruise, so I understand the ins and outs, but people are like, I have to pay for a mastermind and the cruise. Well, it's no different if they flew to me and I taught them in my studio. You still have your airfare and you still have your room charge. I don't pay for that at my retreats. That's at the student's expense. So the cruise is at their expense. And then there is a fee for the mastermind. Really, 30 years of experience they're going to have a workbook and everything. And I guarantee that's going to be worth more than they pay for the mastermind. But it's funny to me that people are like, so I have to pay for the cruise and the retreat? Yes. Just like any other conference.
With my background, I'm on the Trust But Verify program. So Hope, do we have any pictures of Hope's studio? And if not, Hope, how would I go see your studio? Because I'm thinking, I'm a brand new to this. I want to see what the person is really doing. And a lot of these laser companies, they don't have anything or any background on who they are and what they do. So it looks like you're there in part of your studio now, at least on the header.
I think, Bruce, I sent you a picture of me standing in front of the studio with the lasers. So I do believe I sent you one of those while he's looking for that.
Yeah, I don't know that you probably did, and I didn't somehow see that.
But you've got your hat press, and you're substantial. I mean, you can also go into your Facebook group and ask for any information that anybody wants also, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, if you see this logo, this is what you look for. There's her logo. I did get that.
Perfect. So my studio is in Sarasota, Florida. It's about 2,000 square feet, and we have it constantly set up like a classroom. So we have a classroom table set up, and then because I also host art and charcuterie parties and team building events for other businesses in town. And during the regular week, if you were to walk in, there's orders stacked up on the table. So it's set up. The first thing that everybody says when they walk in is, "Wow, do you need help?" A lot of my clients are actually asking me to hire them because it is a fun space, and the men come in and they say, "It's so organized and neat," and that might be because I'm a woman and I try to stay that way.
Hey, don't go there, because I got a clean shop too. Somebody told me that I have the cleanest garage in the United States.
Wow.
Oh, and as we discussed before we went live here, don't let what you see in the background fool you. Mine is an absolute disaster.
I have some
You know,
organizational people I can send your way, Bruce.
well, my wife, you know, reminds me constantly that maybe I should clean up, but I'm kind of deaf and I just don't pay attention. So
So you sound
anyway,
like you have 4 lasers.
Right now, I have 4 with another one on the way. And there's another one that I really want, George. So when I grow up and get to be you, and my husband isn't listening in the other room, I might want to add another one. But right now, I have 3 CO2s. I chose Aeon brand after I had the Glowforge, which again was a great stepping stone towards doing this full time. When I bought my first laser, I had no idea I was going to turn this into a career. I already had a very promising career, but it with a high paying career, and it involved me traveling the country 15 days out of the month. So I just thought, hey, it's the next big thing, lasers at home, how cool. And I'm really thankful for that because I decided early on it was too slow and I needed more control with placement and all of that. So then I started doing my research and I came and decided after really diving in deep that Aeon was the brand that I wanted. So I ordered 1 Aeon and then 2 Aeons and 3 Aeons. And now I have an Aeon fiber laser and another one coming.
So both of us are sold on Eons, but I want to know, for the people that are out there listening, what was your first? Why did you buy it? What was the business opportunity that you saw?
yeah.
So
How did you get started? Tell us about your business career.
Okay, so in lasers, I really love anything Apple. I should have bought stock in Apple, but this was my why. This is the one I happen to be wearing. I have multiples that you guys can see when you look at my website. I decided I was obsessed with engraving on silicone and I could do a great job in personalized silicone. And so my first laser was strictly just for myself. I thought, hey, I'll throw a website up there and maybe some of my sewing friends who've followed me for years will buy some of my sewing themed watch bands. And so I had someone create my website, which is there still today, hopeyoder.com. And I got a few sales and it was the best day ever. And then that just kind of grew and grew. And now we have over 60 different watch band styles. But honestly, I do more corporate gifts and cutting boards than watch bands. But Bernina Sewing Machine Manufacturing Company just ordered 100 Bernina branded bands, and we just shipped those off. I'm one of their educators. They're inviting me to teach business courses for their store owners. And I said, hey, how about having some of my swag in your store while I'm there? And you know what? They said yes. In fact, they just ordered more. They just received them and they said, we think we need to order some more. And I'm like,
well,
I think you do too. So watch bands.
Not to cut you off, but what you did was you wanted something almost for yourself, and it was something that you saw, and then you saw the business opportunity and grew through 4 machines, and you're looking at more. Tell us about that. I mean, do you see the business opportunity in this being so strong that is there more room for more people in this industry? What's the personalization market? You're teaching and bringing other people into this. Obviously, you think that not only you can earn a living, but there's how do I say this? You're awfully kind to bring more competition into the market.
Well, I think there's enough room for all of us in this industry. So there's other laser engravers in this city. Actually, a couple of them, they use me as a referral when they purchase their laser. I'm going to invite them into the studio to see my setup. So to answer your question, anything that you can personalize, there's a huge market for. And in your town, you may have other laser engravers, but there's only one you. There's only one point of view that you have. There's one style that you have that everybody else doesn't have. It doesn't matter if everybody in my town engraves watch bands. I'm going to do it different and I'm going to do it my way. And my photography is probably going to be better because of my husband that is behind the scenes taking those photos. And so if you can find an edge, I think there's so much room for personalization. If you remember the store Things Remembered, that used to be so popular. In fact, one of my clients used to work there eons ago. But I don't think that looking at the market being saturated is a good, healthy way to look at anything. Otherwise, we'd have one real estate agent in town. We'd have one mortgage broker. We'd have one brewer. We had one restaurant. So it's the same thing. There's business opportunities for anybody. And laser is fast. If you get a fast laser, you could, for instance, on my Glowforge, I could do one watch band in 45 minutes, this detailed. Now with my new laser, I can do the same watch band in 4 minutes. So think of how much more money I can make with having a faster laser. But really, I think the way to look at it, think about the restaurants. There's more than one in town. Why?
Yeah.
They offer different things.
One of the points that Bruce and I like to make is we do have our laser preferences to manufacturers. Everybody does. Some people like Ford, some people like Chevy. Now Bruce is using an Omtech. Now, could you could you take Lightburn, because that's pretty much a universal program, and run a program on Bruce's laser?
Absolutely. For me, if I was going to tell anybody what laser to look for and what I can train them, whether they go to my online course or in person, number one, I would say it would be to your benefit to buy a laser that uses Lightburn. Period. If the laser doesn't use Lightburn, like you said, George, that's the industry standard, and you want to be using one of the best programs out there because you're going to have a lot more control of your designs and your settings. And then a Rudia controller, which Omtech uses, Aeon, Thunder, Boss, those are a great controller. That's what actually makes the laser move. And so any laser with those two combinations is going to give you a great point of running a business. And obviously then you have other factors like faster and, customer support and all of that.
Who's Jason? And I think the pronunciation is Dore?
Jason Dorey. He is the coolest dude ever and the owner and inventor of Lightburn software.
Sounds like you know him personally.
I do. I might have had some drinks with him and you and my
husband.
No.
I ain't giving that up.
So yes, Jason is the owner of Lightburn. He have a really cool team and they are just beyond, my comprehension of intelligence, but they're so down to earth and relatable. And they recently had their very first conference in Peoria, Illinois last fall. And I have to say, that was probably the third honoring moment that I had. They asked me to come and teach for them with many other icons in the industry. I actually taught a Lightburn course there with, there were over 150 people in that room. And they had their laptops. And I was so excited to get there until I got there and I saw all the people in the room. I thought I'd have 20 folks. But trying to teach 140 people in the room at the same time, because the program is so user-friendly, it was really a great experience. And Lightburn, I use Adobe Illustrator. I've used Silhouette Design Studio. I helped invent Craft and Cut software. I've used Corel Draw, many different programs. And Lightburn can replace all of those, and I think it's easier to use. In fact, it does welding of text better than Adobe Illustrator.
So, Bruce,
go ahead, George.
A question for you: weren't you involved in this kind of computer programming stuff? And how do you rate Lightburn? Because I find it to be very easy, and it's one of those, if I'm just getting involved in this and I know that there's a computer program and a machine involved, I get to the point where, oh, can I really handle this? And if you talk to Hope or talk to me, we love it, but I know you had some experience in this professionally. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, my first business career was in the computer software industry. In fact, I suspect that some of the code that's running in CorelDRAW, we licensed back many years ago, part of the original code for CorelDRAW. And I was in the CAD CAM industry for 20 plus years. We started the company in college. And so I've got lots of experience with software. The guys at Lightburn for absolutely want something that doesn't run Lightburn. You just don't. I had another brand of laser. I had I'll mention it, an X Tools P2. It didn't really run Lightburn. I didn't keep it. I wasn't happy.
We're getting a little freeze on him, Hope.
Freeze frame. Oh, that's dating me.
Am I frozen?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You'll come back.
I, I know from personal experience how difficult it is to make software that is not only capable and, let's face it, it's complicated, make it easy to use. And the guys at Lightburn and the gals, I'm sure they probably have some ladies also programming, they do a good job of that. And it works really well. It's not a program that you're going to spend a lifetime learning. You can pick it up within really a matter of hours, or certainly within a couple of days. You'll be pretty good with it. You'll be able to do about anything you're going to want to do, I would say, within just a matter of a day. I mean, that's my opinion.
So now, Hope, does Lightburn, because I've heard this in the field, and does Lightburn run for your fiber laser also?
It does. All you need is an extra license for the fiber. And so I use the same computer for all four of my lasers. In fact, one of the fiber lasers I was looking at ran on a different program and they didn't have an option for Lightburn. So I decided not to go with that simply for the reason I know Lightburn, I know the owners of Lightburn, I know their customer support, and they're always improving and they're reachable. So Lightburn made the decision of which fiber laser I went with.
Yeah, well, it is good software. So Hope, let's talk about what do you contribute to your success? Why are you successful in this endeavor? I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but I always like to hear from people about what makes them tick. What makes you tick?
Um, well, successful business and with a laser operating, I guess, are two different things. So I'll start with the laser operation. I'm really a nerd at heart. And so you mentioned you've coded. I haven't coded, but I actually helped with two crafting software programs and did all the beta testing and did all the video training. And all that means is I'm really a nerd at heart. So I'm very analytical, but creative, which is, usually you don't see that together. I love figuring out why something works in the setting. So I think one of the reasons in the laser industry that I'm so successful is I like a challenge and I spend a lot of time on the front end testing for materials. And then I'm very methodical on logging those in a settings workbook. I use editable PDF files. So if I was going to master glass on a whiskey bottle, I'm going to take time on the front end to get the perfected settings using a very systematic way of, taking the three variables. And I don't let that stress me out. I actually like that as a challenge. So I may do that the day before I need to actually do the project so that I'm not stressed, I'm fresh, I'm having fun, I'm listening to music, and I am going to really dial in perfected settings. And that's half of the equation. The other half is not writing out on a dang post-it note. I have a legit workbook that is my personal settings, and my employees open that workbook daily and they can just go right to, XYZ material and dial in the settings. So for being good at laser, I think that you have to know that there's a lot of testing. If I'm going to engrave on a cutting board, I better buy 4 or 5 of them. And a lot of mistakes that I see that people do is they may engrave that. Well, here I have this sitting here as an example. If I wanted to engrave this on whiteboard, and I'm not going to go and waste a lot of whiteboard and just engrave the whole design. That would be really foolish. So what I do is I'll take the thinnest, skinniest letter. So I'll take an M and like maybe this big Y, and I'm going to test just those 2 elements, the biggest and the smallest, on scrap material. No need to waste all of that real estate. And so just practical things like that make me really good at what I do, more production minded behind the scenes. So that, hopefully that answered that. But business wise, people buy a laser and think they're going to have the business that they see someone else have. And the laser is just a tool, like a hammer doesn't build a house on its own. You have to learn skills. And so business skills, I've learned those over the past 3 decades. And it really starts with relationships with other business owners in my community. So I'm a big connector. I work with a lot of individuals who are other business owners. And when they know you and then they like you and they trust you, they're going to refer you. And I don't know where I would be without networking effectively the right way. And that's really, I think, between that and all the business I've collected over the past 30 decades with pricing and working with other companies, I think all of that makes me successful. Other people around me, just today, someone was asking for an outdoor sign in a local Facebook group, and there were 25 comments. 10 of them said Hope Yoder. And those are people that are my clients and my friends that know I do what I do well, but they didn't know I existed a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think George would agree with me. It takes a lot of hard work. I don't think anybody is successful in business unless there's a lot of hard work involved. And, obviously there are people who are at the right place at the right time. They just happen into something. But most people, and I think I've told George this, my father used to tell me, he said, son, there's 2 ways to be successful in life. You can either be born really smart and be smarter than everyone else, or you can work harder than everyone else. And he said, son, you're just going to have to work hard. So
Were you
that's
at
what
least
I did.
handsome in there? It's like the women may not find you handsome, but
No,
they
no,
should at
no.
least find you handy.
He knew I was. I didn't that in that regard. But no, you it does take a lot of hard work. But if you're willing to put the time and effort in, and George and I have talked about this many times, you can be successful at anything you do, I think.
Bruce, I want to ask you a question. Does it have to be expensive to decide that you want to try and do a laser, do some laser work? I think you just reviewed a $149 laser and you're giving it away.
I did. Shameless plug here. If you go to the Edge of Innovation Workshop channel on YouTube, I bought on AliExpress as more or less kind of a joke, a $149 laser, and I got ripped off because I now find it's $125. Took a week, 10 days to get in, and I thought this can't possibly work. And you know what? It actually works. Now, you can't really use it for business, but if you want to get started, it's a fun thing to play with. It doesn't work with Lightburn. I spent actually a lot of time trying to make it work with Lightburn. And I'm going to give it away on June the 30th of 2024. So if you're watching this 2 years from now, it's already gone. But yeah, it actually worked. I don't know if the video is going to stay up. I got a notification, you guys will appreciate this, from YouTube this morning that said it had political, it was a political ad. And what I did, I said, if you comment on this video, I'll pick a winner from the comments. And what I did is I engraved 2 business cards, one of them for Joe Biden, one of them for Trump. I never even mentioned their names. And I put the video in of it doing it. Somehow, YouTube picked that up and thinks
Oh,
it's a
that's funny.
political ad. I have no idea. And I don't care who you vote for. I just did it as a joke, but they thought it was a political ad. And so I don't know if they're going to take it down. As of this morning, I had 4 comments. So their chances, if they take it down, are really good of winning.
You know what I found to be really funny is the off-color humor, some comments about, and I'm not going to say the P word here because I don't want us to get pulled down, but and anything that has to do with a higher authority, all those things that we're not supposed to talk about, those items sell. I mean, if you'll engrave something with, your favorite guy, that's running for president or whatever, you can get a lot. It's amazing how much money is to be made in those 3 topics. So if somebody's looking for, what could I engrave? I mean,
Yeah.
those are like instant winners.
Yeah. Well, typical of my wife, she said, well, if you give this away, what if it burns somebody's house down? So if you watch the video at the end of it, I say, if you burn down your house, your neighbor's house, if you kill your neighbor's cat or dog with this, if you cause a global financial meltdown or nuclear holocaust, that's on you. I'm not responsible.
Funny. Yeah, it's a shame you have to worry about all of that just to give something free away. But I think even though if you stay away from politics, uh, you were personalizing it in a way, and that just proves that the market is not oversaturated with anything personalized.
No. Well, didn't I see Hope this morning? I was on your Facebook page before we started, and did I see you're going to engrave some sort of a Chanel perfume bottle?
Yes, I did. I engraved a Chanel bottle, and so again, that's a customer that it was a brand new customer, and she found me on Facebook on one of the moms groups because several people said Hope Yoder, Hope Yoder, Hope Yoder, and she know what she said to me. She said, "I picked you. Well, number one, because you were more recommended, but number two, you were the only one with a real website." So
Ah,
if anybody is listening here, having a legit website, even if it's in 1 or 2 pages, that got me an edge over the other names mentioned. But yes, we did engrave a chenille bottle. It turned out beautiful, and she's picking it up tomorrow. So I do a lot of glass. I've done Don Perignon bottles, expensive bottles, and I would love to have a UV laser. That's on my bucket list. Marv, close your ears. Uh, but because of that, a UV laser is going to be a little better fit, but I can do a darn good job with my CO2 laser.
yeah. No, that's
You know
that's a
what?
neat
I,
thing.
I just realized I'm illegit because I ain't doing no website. I did that in real estate banking, no more.
But again, I'm production
I'm
oriented.
illegit.
Yeah. No, no websites for me. I've got enough stuff now. So,
Well, I don't
yeah.
think
Well,
with what you two handsome and handy gentlemen are doing that you need a website. So here's me backtracking. But if you're in the production business and you're selling finished
you do.
goods,
You
yeah,
do.
I think that really does add some legitimacy, and it just really helps. It's like a lookbook for them to see.
It is.
So I was glad that I invested that money in someone else's business to build my website.
How
Yeah.
how about
No, you're
Etsy and Spotify? You do any Etsy or Spotify ever
I
have?
I don't really do Etsy because well, I don't want to offend anybody who does Etsy. So I get calls all the time. Hey, I ordered this off of Etsy. It came in late. It looks terrible, and I didn't know you were local. So I would love to do business with you, even if I charge more. In fact, today, George, I got a call from a real estate agent that I have not done business with yet. However, she's dropping off. I'm at home filming with you guys, but at my studio, my staff is there, and she wanted 2 martini glasses engraved, and she ordered them off of Etsy. And she says, we have our closing and dinner tomorrow at 4 p.m. Can you help me? And she showed me, I said, could you send me that Etsy link? And the person was using a hand engraver to engrave it. And she's paying me a fortune for a rush fee and to have these engraved because it's so important that she makes a good impression on that closing. So her comment was, I'm so glad I found you and you're local. And I think with being local too, they know you. And if you mess something up, which not everything goes perfect, you're going to bend over backwards to make it right. And when you're on Etsy, people just don't return it or they don't comment. And so, it's just like we've all been there and done that with equipment. You know, you buy something that's less expensive, wanting the better one, and then you end up getting the better one, and it takes more time and it costs more. So I was at one time on Etsy where I sold,
Yeah.
I'm a fabric designer and I sold my fabric on Etsy. And now I just moved that to my own website. I think Etsy's a great way to start out, but because I do so much I do so much work with other business owners in town, they would prefer to go through someone direct.
Mhm. Yeah, those sites, Amazon, eBay, Etsy, all of those, they take a big fee too. So if you're going to go, if you can avoid that and go directly with you on the phone, go to your website, you're going to save money. I mean, I think that, I'm guessing anyway.
And I think that's where networking is so important, because you do need to get no one, just because you own a laser and you're really good at what you do doesn't mean you're going to have customers. And so they have to find you. And the way to find you is really by organized networking, in my opinion. And so that's what's really helped us quite a bit.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned the realtor and the laser, and let's see if I can pull it up here. That's how I ended up. Let's see if it didn't come up. That's how I ended up with my laser, my Omtech, because a realtor bought it. He was going to give away gifts. The pandemic came along. He wasn't technically inclined at all, and he just never did it. I think he kind of got out of the real estate business, so I bought the thing from him fairly cheap, and I made lots of upgrades to it. And I will say this at this point: if you're looking at buying a laser, and it depends on what your budget is, if you're handy with tools and you can fix things, an Omtech's okay. It's the way to go. But if you're not handy and if you're doing this for a business, what George and Hope did, whether it's an Aeon, a Thunder. I would not spend. I mean, there are people out there, and you guys can comment on it if you want, but there are people out there spending $30,000 for something that should be 8, 9,000, and we know the brands. I won't mention them, but it's crazy what they're spending. I saw on Facebook Marketplace some guy trying to sell a 80-watt laser about like mine. It's no better. It's several years old, for like $20,000. Well, I looked it up and he paid 30. You know, it's nuts. You don't need to spend that kind of money.
Right.
You want a
And
good laser,
burn
go do
either.
what they do. I'm sorry, what?
And that laser may not run on light burn.
That is true. It probably didn't. It probably used one of the other controllers. Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, yeah. So Hope, what's your best advice when it comes to actually buying the laser? What do you think that you have any advice? Because people are looking at this probably because they're interested in lasers. I mean, anything specifically? I mean, what should you look for?
Well, I do want to put a plug in. I'll send you this email. I actually have a free course on exactly that. 10 things I wish I knew before I bought my first laser. So I'll give you that. We can put that on our channels. It's just kind of a lot of technical things, but I would say if you can't afford what you really want, maybe you should wait, because you'll end up spending more in the long run, because you'll buy what you can afford now, knowing right away maybe you should have waited, or sold some of your other equipment to get some money together to buy a laser. So for instance, I have some old embroidery machines, and when I told my husband I wanted to get a second laser that was a little bigger, he said, do you have the money? And it was like, well, he goes, get the money and then we'll talk. And so I started looking around my shop, and I had some older embroidery machines that were great machines, and I sold them all, and I actually made enough to buy that laser. So number one, maybe be resourceful and try to find a laser that has good customer support behind it. Actually, a person in the United States that you can talk to or email to get help, because let's face it, it's a big piece of equipment and you're going to need help at some point. It's like buying a copy machine or leasing one. You want to know that there's, a good customer service behind it. I would honestly recommend buying anything that uses Lightburn software. That's a must for me. A lot of people don't realize that you have to exhaust outside of the laser, so you have a big vent to go outside. So you want to think about those things. Where are you going to put it? A lot of people want to carry these 500-pound lasers upstairs or down in a basement. That's probably not the best choice. I live in Florida, and so I don't have to worry about it freezing. But if I had it in a garage and it froze, that tube is going to freeze over. So that my course has all of those things. But what would I recommend? Definitely light burn and customer support. A lot of lasers have cameras, and honestly, I don't even use my camera because I had a Glowforge and it was a fisheye camera. So I wanted to make sure I had a better camera, but with the red light and the perfect positioning, that doesn't even matter with the commercial lasers. I'm biased. And so I, of course, would say, hey, I love Aeon and I partnered with them because that's what I use. And I know that their customer service has been excellent for me. Um, but buy more than you can afford and find the money so you can afford what you really deserve.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. It didn't bother me because I'm Mr. Fix It and a tinkerer, but unless you're that, you want to buy something that's got some U.S. based support. And I think we all agree. We see this on Facebook. We see this in the social media sites where somebody goes out and buys a laser, whatever that might be, and it's a Chinese laser. Because let's face it, they're all made in China now.
Right.
Some of the engineering is done here in the U.S. I know um, Aeon, which I visited their factory. George has been there. You've been there. Great people, great facility. A lot of the engineering for theirs is done in the U.S. Their technical support's based in the U.S. But you're going to need help at some point. And I see this on social media where people buy these things, and it's something as simple as aligning the mirrors, which if you're not into lasers, you don't know what that is, but you're going to need at some point to align those mirrors. And it's not hard once you've done it a time or two, but it's nice to have somebody to kind of help you through that.
Right.
And that person in China who speaks no English, who's going to email you in broken sentences, isn't going to be help. You're going to be on YouTube looking for people like me, and I don't have any alignment videos, but there's plenty of them out there to help you. So it's nice to be able to pick up that phone and call somebody local. So if you're starting out, unless you're Mr. Fix It like me, I would do what these people have done and buy a U.S. product.
I got to stop there because I was just at the International Sign Association show in Orlando, and one of the manufacturers has come up with a methodology to, without requirement for alignment, place the mirrors in the holder. So literally, if you can change if you can take the bottle cap off of a medicine bottle, you can change the mirrors and they'll be in alignment. They also made it so that if you had to replace the tube's in a docking station, and they also did a magnetic mirror. So at your laser head, you can literally reach in and pull it out and put it back in. There's even a heat sensor on some of the product lines so that if your mirror gets dirty, it'll warn you at your Ruida controller, so you would clean it. Now, for the business person, what this means is less time in cleaning the machine, maintenance. I've seen people go nuts with mirror alignment. It's not that difficult a thing, but if it can already be done for you, why not? So that's a consideration in buying. If you're aligning with a company that really cares about making this as effortless as possible, you may want to give them, some additional consideration. It certainly, at the show, I was amazed at the number of professionals who are like, that could save me a half an hour. And they're thinking time is money. So, and that kind of ties into what Hope said. If you can't have the machine you want, right now, either, figure out a way, sell something else, or wait until you can buy the right machine. Because if not, you're just going to be unhappy, in the long run.
Right. With that, I add to that. So if you're wondering what laser is that, George and I were at that show, and it's Aeon, but their new innovation is called the Red Line. And so I think they have videos on their webpage. You can see it, but it was pretty much a dropping jaw moment of, yes, I can align my mirrors. But the thing is, we don't do that very often. And so then you forget and you have to pull up that video. And just those alone were like, shut the front door. So George, can I give you a nanny booby moment? I have one coming. I'm so excited.
Oh, good for you. I put it on my Facebook group that my girlfriend went through my because I keep arduous notes on everything, my to-do list and all that. And she opens up and she goes, "Red line." And features. Do I need a Nova, the 7, the 5? So I'm looking at the same thing, but I have a perfectly functioning machine.
Right.
It's kind of hard because I'm just a hobbyist to justify going out and spending that money. But I kind of look at it like a new sports car. If I sold the old sports car, I got the new sports car.
Yeah, I think,
And
yeah.
and I do have, about 11,000 people that follow me on YouTube, and they probably like to, see if I really truly believe that those things are game changers.
Right.
So, I'm seriously thinking about it, but maybe I need anybody out there want to buy a really nice Mirror 7 with, only hobbyist usage, get it to
Or another Mirror 5. Well,
If
that
you
was what
can't,
my husband
if you
said.
can't
He
afford,
goes,
if you can't afford that, I'm giving one away.
Yeah. Hey,
well, I have 4 holes cut out of, we have a big commercial space. And so we have one of those big roll up doors, and he put wood underneath. So the roll up door is stuck on the wood, and there are 4 beautiful holes with venting outside. And he told me he's cutting me off. He's not putting any more holes in that wood. So I have to give up a favorite laser to replace it with. So I have a Mirror 5, which is a small bed size, and I'm probably going to have to sell that. And when the other one comes, but I have a few more months to convince him that 5, an odd number, is always better than an even number.
in my Facebook group, I got some every now and then manufacturers will send me promotional items, and I have one really nice tumbler, but they gave me like 3 more. One of the manufacturers gave me like 3 more, so I gave them away in my Facebook group, and people loved it so much. In my group, I do some woodworking. This is a really pretty nice cutting board. It needs to be routed. I just bought a new router table that is CNC control. Couple of points. One is this stuff's not that hard. I mean, yeah, there's a learning curve, but once you can finally manufacture the product, this is quite satisfying. But I'm taking this and this knife and giving them away in my Facebook group. So it's kind of nice to be able to share with people that, not only the product or, your hobby craft, but how you did it. And all I want to do is encourage people to know it's not really that difficult if you put your mind to it. You don't have to be a genius. I mean, some of the best craftsmen in the world were probably a little touched, but it's, I think I'm probably a little touched, especially I'm giving this away. Now, one of the things I really liked about this, and maybe there's a point to make here with Hope. What if I engraved with a fiber laser right there, like somebody's name? What if I took this and I personalized it? All of a sudden it becomes, instead of a $15, $20 cutting board and an $8 Temu knife, it becomes a keepsake. That if you especially can appeal to that in your marketing, you've got an opportunity to create a really nice business here. Hope, you talked to me something about, you told me I needed to work on my pricing because free wasn't good. What is like your minimum setup charge?
Oh, okay. So by that, I think you're referring, if a customer brings something to me that I don't provide, it would be like a plumber. We owned a plumbing company, and plumbers don't like it when you buy the toilet for them to install. And it's not even necessarily a money issue. It's because maybe they haven't worked with that particular toilet. The bolts are not lining up, all of those things. So for me, if you're going to bring something into my studio, which we gladly accept a lot of things that we don't sell, I do have a minimum setup fee, and that's a $35 flat fee to engrave. So if you brought me your own cutting board, I'm going to be happy to do that for you. And it's going to be a $35 fee for engraving your name on that. And I wouldn't recommend that other laser engravers actually take other people's products until you're very confident that you can nail the settings and get it good, because again, I teach laser engravers all over the country, online and in person. So I have a lot of street experience and that expansive notebook of settings. So For me, it's $35. Sometimes that's not even really enough, but I just kind of keep it at a flat fee.
Yeah, but that's just for like the setup. If it's a really complex engraving, of course, you're charging more for that.
Correct. But like on your cutting board, if they, or your knife, if they wanted me to put a name on either of those, it would be $35.
Sure.
Well, that's certainly reasonable. Well,
You know,
Joy
some
brings up the,
people, I'm sorry, other laser engravers will say $35, you charge that much? Well, I am running, and this is our conversation. I'm running a business. I'm not a nonprofit. I do support nonprofits and I give to them, but I need to make money. That's why I chose this career. Even though I love it, I still work for money, like most of us who are still working. And so that $35, sometimes, I'm making a little more if it's super simple, but it's all those years of experience behind
Mhm.
what I'm doing to know that I'll do it with excellence. And so, as a new laser engraver, if you're watching this, again, I would not recommend that you do that until you're really confident in your skills.
Yeah.
Because if you ruin it, you have to replace it. Like that Chanel bottle. Do you know that's a $178 bottle of perfume? If I'm going to ruin it, I know that I'm going to run the risk. I have to run out and find that bottle, replace it, and then try to engrave it right. So you have to have a lot of skills before, you really want to do that. And a lot of our other businesses in town won't take other people's products.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's well. Let's talk a little bit about what would you tell an absolute beginner if somebody's watching this stream or watches it later, and they're thinking about doing this and they haven't been into lasers, they haven't, and they want to be you. Let's just say they want to be you. What mistakes did you make starting out that could be avoided? What would you tell somebody to not do that you did?
Okay, so I'm going to do a shameless self-promotion plug, but it is comes with honesty. I think successful people pay for speed. And what I mean by that is there's a big learning curve. And so in your budget, when you buy a laser, pay to get formal professional training with someone like myself. And so that's going to cost you a considerable amount of money so that you can pay for speed and you could get up and running in a couple weeks. So I would just say budget that in. Um, that would help you get successful faster. Or the alternative is people that are my students say, I look in Facebook groups and I ask for settings and I try them and it doesn't work. Or maybe accidentally I got a good engraved, but I couldn't reproduce it because I don't really understand how I got it. So I'm going to say, really honestly, invest in, it's more than buying equipment. You really should try to find someone that you relate with and someone that you can trust that does what you want to do. Like me, I run a full-time laser engraving shop, so I'm more than a hobbyist. I'm not better, I just have more skills on different materials. So I think the biggest mistake people make is they think that they're going to buy the laser and it's going to be they're going to learn how to use it in a couple weeks time, or I'll YouTube it, and yes, you can find all of those answers in different places, but it takes, how do you know who you're watching on YouTube really knows what they're doing? So I think budgeting in some professional courses is going to help. So again, I told you shameless self promotion,
Oh, it's
but
okay.
I have people say, "Oh my gosh, I have had my laser for a year and I've been, trying what everybody says and I took your course and in, 4 days, I can't believe what I know." And now they could engrave on a hot dog if they wanted to because I'm going to teach them how to find those settings.
And
So
people
do I
do that, by
buy?
the way. They engrave on hot dogs. I've seen that done. And
So,
my free $149 laser engraver I'm giving away, I think will do that.
There you go.
so Hope.
That's about all.
So Hope, do I buy my laser before I come to your class, or
Well,
do I wait and buy my laser after I take your class? I mean,
yeah.
which would be smarter?
When I started my hands-on retreats, I had the vision in mind that you already owned your laser, and again, any brand of laser that works with light burn. And I thought you have your lasers and you have your mirrors aligned, and then I will teach you how to use it fast and efficient. Oddly enough, I've taught in the last 2 years over 17 hands-on retreats, and the first one that I taught, I think everybody owned their laser. But after that, I had one retreat where everybody but two people owned the laser. So they were all novices. They didn't have their laser yet. So my initial thought is have your laser first, but the students who came, who were probably half of my students, didn't have their laser. They had one on order. Couple came because they weren't sure if they wanted one, so they figured they'd take the course first. But everybody who came that didn't have their laser yet said it was the best thing they could do, because then they didn't have that fear of, oh my gosh, this box is huge. What did I do? Did I make a mistake? They had confidence to know, and they could refer back to the videos and the workbook. So my answer is yes. If you came to my retreat in person, then you can upgrade and get the online course for a few $100s extra. But I still think it'd be better if you already had your laser in in your studio, in your house, and you've aligned the mirrors. But my students would tell you the opposite.
So one of the ways we met was I went to a thing called the Aeon experience where they had everybody else's laser and I was able to compare. It was kind of like uh, it was like being on a used car lot where everybody else's car was there. The only problem was all the lasers were absolutely brand new. So I was able to compare and see. So what do you do for that type of thing when you're trying to make a hard comparison? Is, something like going and seeing all of it, worth it? For me, it cost me about probably $1,500 honest money to go. I did spend a little bit of extra time because I turned it into a YouTube, but being able to see everybody's lasers all in one place was really pretty cool. It's my understanding Eon's going to expand that. Do you know anything about that?
I think that their plan is they kept their old facility and they have those lasers. And I do believe starting in July, I've heard rumors that they're going to open the doors up for that, for people to come in at their own expense. Interesting for that. And I think if you have the budget to do that, hey, Florida is a beautiful place to vacation. You can write it off. But interesting, back to the in-person retreats and that people that didn't have their laser, people that had one brand of laser and people who had the other brand of laser are using my lasers, and they would chat amongst themselves like, I wish I had bought this, or I wish I had done this model instead. And so I thought it was really interesting to hear the different comments with the different brands of owners. They would chat among themselves, and a lot of them are still in contact. And some of them have sold their lasers after using ours and upgraded. Um, but if you wanted to see them all in one place, definitely, check out Eon, the laser experience that they're going to have coming up. After all, like Bruce said, you can write it off as a family vacation to Florida while you make that appointment. What you can't do though is just show up at their doorstep. They're a manufacturing company and they're not going to let you in. That's going to disrupt their whole showroom and their production. So it is something that's done by appointment only. So you just reach out to them and find out, if that's depending on when you're watching this video, if it's an option and if you can schedule an appointment.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I think if I was going to give advice to a beginner, and I know we've talked about this before, George, I would say that if you have the ability to spot opportunities, and some people have that, some don't, but if you can see an opportunity that others don't, if you've always had that ability, you're going to be successful in whatever you do, probably. But especially like this, I mean, Hope is a good example. She sees an opportunity to pick up some sort of product and engrave it. George made the comment about the knife. It's funny because I didn't know this independently. We bought that same knife. We both had the same idea. Now we're not in this for the business. We're not going to try to sell these. But I know where George got his. He knows where I got mine, and they didn't come from the United States, let's say. And you could put a chef's name on there, which is what I'm going to do. I have somebody who's a friend that's a chef, and I intend to engrave their name on it and give it to them. But if you're a business, if you're doing this for a living, I don't remember what I paid for my knife, George, but I want to say it was like $12, $15. It's not a
Mine
lot.
was 8.
8. Okay. Well, I must have bought two of them. I don't know.
Hey,
But
don't tell everybody in my Facebook group I'm giving away an $8 knife.
yeah, you know, well, yeah.
Worth
It's a
a
hundred
hundred.
dollar knife. That's a
But
hundred
but
dollar knife.
but my $10,000 fiber laser, however, will put somebody's name on it, and you can take that $8 knife, put their name on it, and all of a sudden you've got a $50 item that you're going to be selling. So you know the profit margins can be good if you can spot that opportunity. So if you're good at that, I wouldn't hesitate to get into this business.
Hey, you know what, Bruce? I just looked up in the corner and it says we've been doing this for an hour.
We
Is it
have.
time to let Hope go? I know she's busy, and I heard her say that she's got a realtor coming in to get us double, triple fast throw me down engraving, and we
That's
should probably
tomorrow.
let her go.
I did
Yeah,
want to
we
throw in one comparison. So if anybody's watching this and you're still with us, bless you. But I'm a embroiderer, so I work with a lot of embroidery companies. And one of the things that I don't do for money is embroider for, logos on shirts and things like that. I do hats, with leather and leatherette patches. But the reason, and I'm thinking about getting back into that game, but I will tell you the math works better for a laser. I can make at least $100 in 10 minutes with my laser, or putting a logo on a shirt, I may make $25 in 2 hours by the time I digitize and test it. So there's a lot of profit in laser engraving. Um, and honestly, buying a laser cost less than the high end embroidery machines that I used to use, a lot less.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would not have thought that. I thought, that I had no idea. You learn something every day. Well, as George said, we've been at this slightly over an hour. I want to thank Hope for being our guest today. Hopefully, we can do this. Hope, no pun intended. We can maybe do this again because I've learned a lot from Hope. I think our viewers maybe have learned a lot. If you have any questions, Hope does consulting. She has these cruises. I may be your next sign up for one of those cruises because, as I said, I love it. George just got off of a cruise, so I know he likes it. So, yeah, look Hope up, give her a call, and she can get you started and she can help you out. So, again, thanks for joining us today, Hope.
Hope, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure you've helped some people out there.
I'm sure
Thank
you
you
have.
guys. It was great to meet you, Bruce. Always good to see you, George. You guys have any questions, let me know. You can email me as well, hope@hopeyoder.com if you have more questions, or find me on Facebook.
Tell Marv I see him in July.
Beer's waiting. All right, bye-bye.